sounds from the rhythm underground. Welcome to the We Love Guitar Nerds podcast, your place for all things guitar. We have your interviews, we have your lessons, your boomer discussions, and your verbal rabble-rousings. So please hit subscribe, share, and like to join our constantly growing musical community. Hi, this is Rod Gels, and I am with Shane Hunter. We Love Guitar Nerds. This is Shane Hunter. He plays the 5-string guitar currently with Mick Adams and the Stones. He does lots of stuff though. He is came up in the 80s, actually late 70s, 80s in the Sunset Strip scene and all that. So anyway, we want to talk about the Sunset, like the history of the Sunset Strip. So here's what I know. Well, not just the Sunset Strip, but the Whiskey and the Sunset Strip. This goes back to like the 20s, and they found an area near LA that was out of the jurisdiction of the LAPD.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
That's where the Sunset Strip. So that's kind of telling in itself.
Yeah.
So
it was originally created for celebrities to party and not go to jail.
Yeah.
Really, they got their own police. It was completely separate
from Los Angeles.
Separate from LA. But yeah, and so like still even to this day, there's sheriffs that patrol the area. It's not LAPD.
Okay. And what does that mean? When we say sheriffs?
Well, I mean, just it's just a different thing. It's more like sheriffs usually you see like in suburbs and odd counties and small towns and stuff. And then there's always, this
Kentucky.
there's always this thing that's like, the sheriff's like, the sheriff or whatever, you get pulled over.
Yeah.
And, there's like, hey, Jim, you've been drinking again? It's like, oh, well, only a few, that kind of crap.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in Poole, Kentucky once, and I was in a band called The Shakes, and we were doing a little tri-state tour, and we had just signed some paperwork with Zoo Records. And it was right around the same time that they signed a band called Tool. And they were trying to decide which one of us to put a lot of money into. And we were like playing, Stonesy, Black Crowes kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Tool is entirely different than that. And super cool, but different. And we were doing all these little places, and we ended up in like around Paducah, Kentucky kind of area, something like that. And there was this little tiny small town called Poole, Kentucky. And for whatever reason, we'd all been out, kind of drinking a little bit and partying, and we hadn't been asleep yet. God knows why. But we ended up in a field with machine guns.
Really?
And a couple shotguns and some pistols. And we just started shooting the crap out of stuff. No animals, no people.
Yeah.
Just having fun. And a sheriff pulls up, out of nowhere, and has his lights on, and just pulls up right behind us. I mean, we couldn't hear anything anyway. We were shooting guns like gangsters. And he comes out of the car, and he's just looking at us. I'm like, oh crap, man. This is not good.
Not gonna end well.
No, and I got gigs tomorrow. It's the whole band. We had gigs, and typical thing. If we didn't play the game, we didn't have the money to survive the next week, and etc. And so it's just all this stuff running through my head. Oh my God, guy walks up and he goes, "Give me one of those." And he grabs it and he goes, "Let me show you how to shoot this. You boys are not shooting these properly." He gives us a full instruction on how to hold it properly and the whole thing.
Boys.
And then he leaves.
So that is the sheriff.
So that's the sheriff. So that's kind of what was happening back in, like you're saying, 20s, 30s, 40s, Hollywood. And also the police could keep the press out. There was no like real paparazzi back then, but there's still like people, that was the scene, man. You wanted to know what Marilyn Monroe was doing. You wanted to know what everybody was doing, and they kept it, all hush hush as much as they could. Mm-hmm. It's not really that way now. I mean, it changed a lot whenever I guess it was early 90s, whenever they put the ban on flyering and stuff on the strip. And we've been playing there for years, and been selling out all the clubs. And I mean, it was just no movie, even though I've seen some cool movies that shown little pieces of 80s Sunset Strip stuff. I've never seen a movie that even really got close to how crazy it was. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
really.
So what was it back like in the '80s? Like when you
That's what I mean. Yeah, they
yeah,
they
when
they
you first
didn't
got
they
there?
didn't know. I've never seen anyone get close to it. It was literally there were hundreds, if not thousands, of young, gorgeous women, and guys, everywhere. Guys were on the bands, and the girls were, all wanting to be hanging with some guy in a band, and they were just having fun, man. It was just a really decadent, crazy era, and they were all hanging out. There was no limit to, you know, the sheriffs would kind of keep people in line, but as far as like, up and down the strip, there were just as many people, like you see like a crowded New York street with its like asses and elbows. It was
Mhm.
like that with young, scantily clad people,
Yeah,
just gorgeous people, and any girl that was good looking for wherever she was from moved to Hollywood to try to be an actress or to be something. Any guy that that's back then that looked like a girl
yeah, yeah, yeah.
came in. So it was just insane. It's so insane. I mean, I know, of course, it wasn't me, but I know guys that would literally, grab. I don't want to get into change this into some kind of thing, but it was. Uh,
Well, the thing about that I think about that when we talk about the Sunset Strip in the '80s, guitar lexicon of great guitar players we became aware of in the 1980s.
yeah,
Just about all of them got their wings.
yeah,
The Sunset Strip. We have Randy Rhoads and Eddie Van Halen, who
yeah.
are '70s.
Late
They
70s.
Yeah, they started it like earlier than that. So late '70s.
Yeah.
You have
And what's a trip is the people like George Lynch. He
George
was
Lynch,
around then.
all
He,
the guys in Rat, the Rough Cut, even Guns N' Roses and Slash. Uh,
yeah. Oh yeah.
so it is not an exaggeration to say that '80s rock, the Sunset Strip was the epicenter.
Oh, no question about it. There's
Yeah,
no question about it. And we were all like in super heavy duty competition, but the truth is, man, it was a huge talent pool. It was unbelievable. You could really just go anywhere, and the band you saw somewhere in some little crevice was so much better than bands. We talked before. I was lucky, and people from my area, the Columbus, Ohio area, we were kind of prepared for it because we had some really great bands.
hmm
So whenever we made it to LA, and then eventually put bands together. Um, I think we discussed how I got to LA before. I got Pete Way flew me out.
You had the audition for Pete Way.
Yeah,
The
yeah. And I
limo picked
decided
you up at
to
the
put a
airport.
band together with Joey C. Jones and
Right.
Randy St. John of Sweet Savage instead of play with Pete. But there was just the amount of talent and stuff is just outrageous. Like I said, we were lucky with the Gods and Rosie and Money. There's so many bands. The
The
Almighty
Gods.
Strut. Basically, yeah, everything that came through the Alrosa was pro. And so the one thing that I was mentioning before, the first time I saw Guns N' Roses. Now they'd not been out on tour and stuff before they came here. They came from here. So something that they didn't have, that the bands I was in did have, was a synchronized road crew.
Yeah.
That were all working together, and they knew, it blew my mind that they had just people just tuning guitars by ear before they go on, and they weren't tuning to each other. They didn't share a tuner.
Yeah.
So I mean,
This is back in the '80s.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it was terrible. It was
Three
literally, it was
Romanis.
awful.
Yeah.
the band was good, but they weren't even in tune with themselves, let alone with each other. So you have 3 stringed instruments on stage that are not in tune with each other or themselves,
Yeah.
and some dude trying to sing to it. It was a wreck.
Yeah.
It was terrible. It was a scene. I mean, it was freaking awesome. Again, it was like, and back to the sheriffs in Hollywood, man. I mean, Whiskey maybe holds 500 people, but I mean, guaranteed there was like 750 in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's and age things. I mean, as far as checking, man, people were so dolled up and freaked out looking. I don't think they even looked at IDs, man. So the age, who knows? There's 14-year-olds in a Troubadour when you go just down to Santa Monica, which, I mean, you could literally hit a golf ball to from Sunset Strip. There wasn't an age limit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They just stamped you different or put like a wristband on you or whatever.
Yeah.
And they allowed the youth in there. And that's like a 200-300 seat room. I mean, they're tiny.
Yeah.
And even when you hear that number, you think it's a certain size, and you get there and you're like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not what I expected.
Yeah. It's not as big as you thought.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I'm lucky enough to still, I played last month, and I'm playing again on the 14th at the Whiskey, doing the ultimate jam night, which is, man, it's just it is so much fun.
Let's talk about the ultimate jam. And I don't know how much of this we can say, because I don't know we want to ruin it for the whiskey, but it's a cool
Right.
it's a cool thing they got. So
It is.
basically
It is.
what it is lots of LA musicians get together from various different bands and historic players. Like I'm seeing Stu Ham on bass.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Stu checks in all the time.
Yeah. I'm seeing Chuck Wright.
Yeah. Yep. Chuck Wright, they call him the Godfather of Jam. Because of this version of the jam nights, he is the king for sure. He organized it and put it together. It was like his baby. And as far as jams that I've participated in, which I, at one point before the pandemic, I was playing 3 jams a week when I wasn't. So anytime I wasn't on the road with Mick Adams, I was on stage at one of, Mondays I was at the Viper Room, Tuesdays I was at the Whiskey, and then once a month they do the Lucky Strike Jam, which is actually really, really good. It's at a bowling alley at Highland in Hollywood.
Okay.
Amazing. I mean, the room is actually, it's a new room, so it's built away. It's got a Bose PA system, like top of the line. Sounds it's unbelievable.
Let's talk. Okay, the differences between sound in the '80s versus the sound now. You said that there's no comparison.
No, yeah, no. The clubs, the clubs have all got people. I mean, again, LA is the epicenter for so many things, but they got people wanting to show off how good their equipment is, and so they're bringing in touring equipment to these clubs.
Yeah.
It's a pro system. It's just like something that you would see someone tour with. It's not something you're going to buy at the local box store, like at the GC or Sam Ash or whatever. They don't even carry the same equipment. This is professional equipment. And the sound difference, I mean, it's just night and day, and it just sounds it's so much different. And back to the Whiskey Jam, I know we're a little all over the place, but it is so freaking organized. It's more organized than anything. I mean, go ahead.
That's wonderful.
Oh, it's like it is a jam. Like majority of the time, the musician pool here is so huge, and so many people. It doesn't fit with the rest of the world. Like people still have their instrument and make their living with their instrument, and they're living in the most expensive. Well, New York's probably more expensive, but it's a very expensive place to live, and to be able to make that much money with your guitars, pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
But music is alive and well, man. And then all the old stuff we used to listen to, and the new stuff, the crossover music. A guitar player that's got some decent chops can stay pretty busy. Um, it's not easy, but you get your foot in the door. It's pretty cool, and there's a huge pool of really high quality musicians that and the whiskey jams on Tuesdays. They kind of figured it out that, hey, most guys are playing,
Let's not overlap each other.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, maybe even Sunday.
Yeah.
But on Tuesday, not that many people were playing.
Yeah.
So everyone's kind of back home and they want to come out and jam. And then
You have a set list that they send out a set list,
yeah,
and they determine who's going to play on what songs. And
Yep.
you have two guitars,
yep,
bass, drums, and keyboards, and vocals.
yeah,
And it's just a mix mash of some people that are known to LA, but some people are known worldwide.
yeah. Oh yeah, we have international artists come in all the time, man. And you talk about people that'll smoke your drum. These guys, man. The people that when we first learned, it was Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads, and because of that, it kind of put us up, and like our technical expectations, what we were capable of immediately. Whenever I finally decided to start playing guitar at 16, I could play Eruption, my version of it. It wasn't, it's not like Pete Thorne or something,
Yeah,
but it still sounded pretty damn good. And to be able to get those chops together, when you're young and a sponge like that, you don't know that you're not supposed to be able to play that way.
right.
I remember, the old dudes would be like, "How the hell are you doing that?" And I'm just like, "It's just like this. It's easy."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're just like, "Yeah, but I mean, where does that even? How do you figure out how to play in key? And how do you just so we were like that. So now the kids today with YouTube and with the unlimited anything, I mean, the stuff they can play. Of course, I'm talking kids. I'm in my 50s, so I mean, I'm talking like 20-year-olds come into the whiskey that are known worldwide, but not really in our local bunch, our local group of guys. And these guys come in and they're amazing.
Yeah.
Unbelievably talented.
Mhm.
And it's really cool.
Do they know the old stuff?
They know, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They know a lot of different things. It's amazing. Because again, it's, what, you can find anything. Just type it in, man.
Because
you
see some of this that like the media wants to portray, like you have this guy that talks about boomer bends, like he draws a line in the sand that's what the old guys play, and we don't do what the old guys do. But I know I listen to music that was older than me.
Yeah.
Their age does not have a bearing on whether I'm going to be inspired by it.
No. I
So,
mean, yeah.
this is happening, is what you're saying. It's like they listen to.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, I really think it's coming back around, man. I mean, like the guitar, it's cool to actually be able to play your instrument again.
Yeah.
And for years,
Yeah,
I mean, there's some jackass spinning vinyl in a corner, getting paid what the whole band used to get paid.
Mhm.
That guy's still out there. I mean, he doesn't even. He brings his freaking phone now and hooks
Right,
it
right,
up to a system, and he gets paid as much as the band or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still there, but yeah. But back to the organization of the Whiskey Jam, the ultimate jam night. That particular jam, they'll pick. There's lots of times you've never met the guy you're playing with until you actually get on stage, and you may or may not have time to even say, "Hey, how you doing?" I know you from this, or I don't know you, or whatever.
Yeah.
But the thing you do know is that the caliber of player, everyone's going to have their shit together.
Yeah.
And they've all been given what song, not only what song, but a YouTube link to the exact version of the song that they're going to be playing. That's brilliant. I mean, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes to make this thing work right. But man, it works.
Yes.
I mean, everybody, and no one wants to let anybody down. And the band that was on just before you sounded like the frickin' record, if not better.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it'll be like, Def Leppard night. Mm-hmm. And they'll do everything from On Through the Night to, through Hysteria.
Right.
And, you're just like, holy crap.
Right.
Mutt Lange production.
Darren Householder doing Rainbow.
Yeah, well, that was bad. I was there.
Man on the Silver Mountain.
Yeah.
Just Richie Blackmoreing it out. That's
just killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crushing it. Yeah, so fun. It's so fun. I'm doing we're doing it's Valentine's Day this coming
Yeah.
Tuesday, the next Tuesday that the jam is. Now it used to be every Tuesday. So it's a lot of work. There's a lot of people involved. Now we're just getting it booted back up. It's just one Tuesday a month. Um, in a way, I don't know. I mean, still every Tuesday was always packed. It was basically this close to capacity every Tuesday.
Hmm.
You know, difference is the Sunset Strip, like you asked about, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was every club was capacity every night,
Yes.
7 nights a week.
Yeah.
Now it's like odd nights. There's still the whiskey still stays pretty current. Um, I mean, that's what they do. They do rock and roll shows. That's what they've always done,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's amazing. I mean,
The
they're
history
busy.
the history of the whiskey. I'm just finding this out now. Whisky A Go Go first opened, according to the internet, January 11th, 1964, 1 month before the Beatles hit Ed Sullivan. So that's
That's
how far back it goes. And it's like,
yeah.
we have the Doors, we have Janis Joplin. So it's not just the 80s hair metal. It's got a rich history.
When I first started playing there in the 80s, there's photos everywhere in the
Mhm.
whiskey, and you'll see pictures of Morrison and Hendrix and Joplin and everyone that used to
Zeppelin.
play there. And literally, you look at the photo, look down, and it's like, holy shit, they were sitting on this couch
Yeah, yeah,
that I'm sitting on right now. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Cool and not cool, I guess.
I was gonna say that's nasty as hell.
That's kind of jacked up, especially after it made it through the 70s and 80s. Man, they
Right,
had to burn that shit.
right.
But
They're probably reproductions.
well, now it's different now, but
Yeah.
it's just things are different. It's funny. I mean, back then, you'd have backstage there. It's all booze and everything like that. And there's a little cocktail area, and the whiskey backstage is the third floor. It's
Yeah.
almost the entire third floor. There's a couple rooms that aren't, but there's 3 dressing rooms and a restroom up there, and people kind of get together and they'll go through what they're going to go on the jam night. So kind of mingle and maybe touch base on what they're going to play.
Hmm.
Hey, if you're playing this guitar part, then I'll play this guitar part.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're actually separating the parts from the album, which I mean, you go see bar bands play songs that have never done that.
Yeah, yeah.
And you go see the whiskey jam and the parts that they've chosen. And I mean, it's really good, man.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So
I was lucky enough just to walk right into it, and at first when I got here, I'm like, wow, you have
they
all these
hire you
people.
because they hire you because of uh the McAdams, or is this predate McAdams?
It predates Mick Adams. I got the Mick Adams gig because of
Because of
playing
that.
at the whiskey.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there
Okay,
was
so
a
now
Stones
they
night.
remember you from back in the day.
I luckily there are family members. The same family owns the strip that's always owned the strip. I don't know if you know what that means.
Yeah. Well, go
But
ahead, tell me.
it's an Italian family that owns everything.
Was that Angelina's?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
they're supposed mafiosos and such.
Okay.
But their kids, the kids of the kids of the kids that are still running it. You know what I mean? So it's just like, hey, some dude came in and said he used to play here, blah blah blah. I'll go talk to his dad, and he goes, oh yeah, no, I used to see him play, man. He's an all right guy, or he's a dick, or I hope he sobered up, or
Yeah.
I can't believe he's still alive, or whatever you may say. But I was lucky enough that I put my time in. I played those clubs hundreds of times in my early years. I had my 21st birthday in LA,
Yeah.
and I was there for at least a decade, and so I played a lot, but also I kind of got and some of the guys that I used to hang with and play, like I've known Sean McNabb for whatever 35 years or something.
Yeah.
We used to play at a jam at a place in the valley. So I mean, LA musicians and jamming is, I mean, it happens. There's so many of us, and we just love to play. It's like we're not hobbyists. This is what we do, and so if we get a chance to go out and jam with some guys or whatever, it's always like, or just go watch, even if you're not included in a jam. I was just going to go watch the jam coming up because I wasn't sure if I was going to be around, if I was going to be. I got some gigs what I'm doing down in San Diego and some other places, and I found out I'd be there for Tuesday for the Valentine's jam, and I called Chuck up, and he's like, "Man, it's pretty booked up," He goes, "But we're just doing songs that are love songs." He goes, "You want to play Dr. Love by Kiss?" And I was like, "That's like, yes, of course I want to." Huh?
You have your guitar.
Do I have my guitar
with you?
Yeah, I've got all kinds of guitars here.
Yeah, I heard you playing it. So
yeah, this is my personal favorite one. I got a story with this one. Can you see that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's a 56. Now I have a story with this, but yeah. Let's see here. So he's like, "You know that one?" I was like, yeah, I got that. No problem. Dr. Love, yeah. I think it kind of goes, That's right hand.
With that boogaloo beat.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
Freaking kick ass.
Yeah.
So check this out. I have to tell this story. All right. There's a few different things. I used to play Les Pauls probably because of Ace Frehley, or always just something I was drawn to, man. Mm-hmm. Love Les Pauls. I was a drummer for years. I worked at a pizza shop every day from the time I was 14 to 18 before going to school. I went in and cleaned the pizza shop up from the night before. The pizza, they'd leave it 1 o'clock in the morning, leave it a complete, total wreck. I'd walk down there before going to school, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I would clean, scrub everything down. I would sweep it and mop it, and then, I'd even flip the dough over after I was done with that. So there would be pizza dough ready for noon the next day when I opened. And I go to my homeroom. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I was late, but that's what I did. And I took every penny. And I also would have I worked a lot. I cut grass. I did whatever I did, and all I did was play drums, man. So I would like save every little penny, and I had this big pearl drum set because not Ace Frehley, but Peter Criss used pearl drums,
right?
And they were nice back then. They were actually maple drums, expensive. They didn't have all the different levels of drums. They just had good drums back then in the late 70s, and I bought this huge drum set and Zildjian cymbals and all this stuff. And when I was 16, I decided to start. I was like, what? I'm playing guitar from now on. A drummer that had joined my band bought my drum set. So I went out and bought a Marshall Stack and a Les Paul. Like most guys start out with right. You know what I mean? I had crappy guitars when I was still a drummer, but once I was like, hey, I've decided to be a guitar player. I got nice stuff. So real quick, then all the MTV stuff hit, and everyone was playing some kind of, and Eddie Van Halen especially, some kind of, Frankenstrat and all that stuff. And so I built my own Strat. And I bought a neck from this, body from this, didn't know anything about finger scale and all this stuff. And I had a Gibson scale neck with the Fender body cut out, so like it wasn't even right. My uncle Leo was a woodworker, and he fixed it for me. He knew how to do that stuff. He built mandolins and stuff. Played that guitar for years till I broke the headstock off of it 5 times. Couldn't glue it back on anymore. Been to Texas and back. I've been all over the place with that thing. And so I've been making some money in a band. I joined a band called Money. Mark Chatfield from Bob Seger was in was in money right before me. I joined the band, said, yeah, they made they made money. That's what they did. They toured around tri-state area. I ended up with a Jackson because that's what everyone played on MTV. I moved to Hollywood and I walked in the 7400 block of Hollywood. There was a store across the street named Guitars R Us. It was across the street from Guitar Center.
Right.
Guitar Center didn't really have used equipment at the time. It was all new. Place across the street, all used. I walked in, they had a 56 Gold Top, beat to living crap, right? I traded 2 guitars and $100 for it. It was a Jackson, a Gibson Flying V, and $100.
Mhm.
Okay, it was 1987.
Right.
I love that guitar. It was my favorite guitar I ever owned.
Yeah.
Due to my way of living and different things that happened throughout my life, I lost that guitar. And I remember when I lost it, I was like, man, either I'm not going to make it, or someday I'll end up with something like that guitar.
Mhm.
That was 87 when I first got that guitar. I traded it again, 2 guitars and $100, 7400 block of Sunset Boulevard. So last month, I'm in the 7400 block of Sunset Boulevard, and I see this guitar, and it's extremely light for Les Paul. It's 8 pounds. I mean, it is. Les Pauls are like 10-pound guitars, 9.5.
Yeah.
So was my original one. And I saw this guitar. I was like, holy crap! It's it's as close as you're going to get to that guitar, that I used to own. And one thing led to another, and I traded 2 guitars and $100 for it.
Really?
And one of the guitars I traded was a Flying V. It's the exact scenario that happened. However, what is it? 87 to I can't do math. I did an 87. I did it again in 23, and I have a Gold Top with P90s, a big old giant fat neck, and 8 pounds. And I traded 2 guitars and $100, and one of the guitars is a Flying V both times. So it's some kind of weird synchronicity or whatever it is. But this is like, to me, I think it's like just a gift. Mm-hmm. This is my Rolls Royce of guitars, man. I just love this thing.
Yeah.
It's a wondrous thing. I don't know how many people have weird stories like that, but I got a few.
Yeah.
So, all right, so that was our sidebar for the day.
Other you were talking about other like the Viper Room and the Lucky Strike, Baked Potato.
Yep.
All these places, they had open mics. They have open mics.
They're not really open mics.
Jam night.
Yeah, they have very organized jam nights.
Yeah, you
have to be included in the club to be allowed on the stage.
Right.
It's funny, people have been misguided and they come in and they get pretty upset. I met this guitar player outside the Viper Room one night, and the kid was an actual lefty like Hendrix and had a right-handed Strat, and he's just sitting there playing. It was summer, and it's always warm anyway, but whatever. He's just sitting on the wall, and it's like where everybody goes out to smoke their cigarettes and stuff, and he's hanging out, and he's playing guitar. And I was like, hey man, and I could hear him playing acoustically. I could tell he's really good. He's a really good guitar player from South Carolina or something. And he's like, man, I told this was the jam night, man. I keep trying to walk on stage and they keep throwing me out. And I was like, yeah, you've been misinformed. It's not an open mic, man. It's, you got to be part of the boys club. It's kind of,
right.
It's kind of one of these things. And he's like, well, that's fucked up. Where can I go to? And then they had a social jam right down the street on the same night as Viper Room on the Mondays. And it started that way. And within 2 months, you had to sign up and you had to have some kind of pedigree to do it. Mm-hmm. So in that aspect, it's kind of jacked. It's not really old school real jam. Now, we used to do a No Bozos jam in the 80s at the Whisky on Monday nights, is what it was called. And
that means what?
That was pretty open.
Okay.
I mean, you just walk in, and because I was there one night and I was playing, and Michael Anthony showed up, and he's like, hey man, can anybody jam? Like, yeah, you can for sure. And he goes up and he talking about love, sang it and played bass. Freaking amazing,
Yeah.
thunderous. But then next to him was some guy playing guitar that nobody knew.
Yeah.
Never seen him before in my life.
Yeah.
I just showed up. It was just one of those things. It was actually kind of more of like a
How often
old
does that
school
happen?
jam. What's that?
How often does that happen where you'll you'll be playing and you meet somebody's passing through who's famous?
A lot, kind of. I mean, it's I mean, the Lucky Strike has you know, people like Nuno and
He lives
you
out there,
know,
right?
yeah, Steve Vai and people like this will show up over there. Um, and again, that's not like it's some rehearsed thing, but it's always, it's just, I mean, again, you're dealing with a caliber of player there that's,
Yeah.
it's so freaking good. We're so lucky out here to be inspired like that.
Mhm.
And then I used to go, here's something that's entirely different. On Tuesday nights, this is again, I don't know if it's not happening yet, but prior to the flamdemic and scamdemic and all that shit, after the whiskey jam was over, which would be about 1, 12:30, 1 o'clock, we wrap it up. I mean, I go over to Cantor's Deli, which is on Fairfax, and great pastrami, et cetera, so on. But connected to Cantor's Deli is a little bar called the Kibitz Room, and there's a guy. Actually, the guy that runs it now is Mark Cantor, and he put a book out on Guns N' Roses,
Mm-hmm.
the early years. Have you ever seen that book? He's
No.
a photographer, and
Okay.
so he went to high school with Slash. So and he's got the stories about Slash. He's like, he just picked up a guitar and could play, et cetera, so on. And he's like, he's just one of those guys. I knew he was going to be something, so I started taking pictures of him as soon as he started playing. So he has pictures of Slash, just like 12 years old, you know, with the guitars like way bigger than him,
Right.
and everything. And then he has pictures all the way through everything he ever did. His high school bands,
Yeah.
him and Tracy Guns going back and forth because they
Uh-huh.
both went to the same high school and they were like the battle guitar players. They were just trying to outdo each other all the time. They were like Eddie and Randy or whatever, but
Right.
in a different aspect. But the Kibitz Room, you talk about a whole different set of musicians. All the guys that jam there are these are guys that go out on tour with oh, what do you say? Oh, you know that movie Echoes in the Canyon?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. With wallflowers.
Yeah. So basically, Jacob
Jacob
Dylan.
Dylan. Yep.
Yeah, the band that he had behind him is the band that jams on Tuesday nights, or at least it used to jam on Tuesday nights at the Kibitz Room.
Okay.
It's like these guys are like all individually have production credits. They get mailbox money. These dudes, you know what I mean? They're not like the group of guys I hang out with. We're kind of like the hired guns, or the
Mhm.
guys that come in and play the music and keep it alive in a live venue.
Yeah.
Those guys are the guys that write the songs, and they get the royalty checks.
Yeah.
And they're actually one of the guitar players that was in that movie, oh man, Jerry, I can't think of his name. It's terrible. I can't think of his name. He just did the last jam we did last month. We did a tribute to Jeff Beck,
Okay.
and he's big bearded hairy guy, man. One of those guys, he just looks like a big old grizzly bear, man. And he plays the guitar, and you're just like, holy crap. You know what I mean? It's just insane. Which brings me back to Jeff Beck. I saw Jeff on his final tour out in Thousand Oaks. A buddy of mine said, "Hey, I bought me and my wife tickets, and and she's so short, I always get real close." That's his excuse. I always get really close tickets because she can't see if someone sits in front of her,
Yeah.
she can't see. So, I go, so what? So you got front row tickets? He goes, well, they were sold out, so I got second row. It's like, oh, okay. I go, so what's your point? You want to go see Jeff Beck second row? Of course you are. And he goes, so I asked her if she wanted to go, and she goes, what song did he write? And I was like, well, he's like, what song does he sing? His wife didn't know who Jeff Beck was.
Yeah.
So she goes,
That's
just
common.
take one of your friends. And I was like, so he goes, so I'm calling you to see if you want to go. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I want to go, but you're not going to like hit me up for the price of the ticket, right? Because I don't want to go that much. And he's like, no, man, it's free. It's on me. It's on me. So I got to see Jeff, a month before he passed or whatever, and
That
he
was
had all of his faculties. He was completely together, man. It's not like these old dudes that you go out and see. God bless them, but I mean, I've seen Chuck Berry and Johnny Winter and
yeah.
all these guys, Albert King before BB King, all these. Well, BB was always pretty damn good,
He
but
he, he did kind of deteriorate. He was 90,
yeah,
so he
yeah,
yeah.
right,
I saw him within the last decade of his life, and he was
yeah,
wonderful. But the last
yeah,
years, he went to the end.
he did,
Yeah,
he
like
did. Well, just like Jeff did too. But I mean,
yeah,
Jeff got it's 78 or whatever. That's too early, man.
yeah.
But I mean, man, and his
The guy was a vegan, and he took care of himself.
Foley,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, Foley, man. I mean, and I mean Johnny Depp looked worse than he did.
yeah,
Because Johnny came up and played a couple songs with him, and I was like, oh, Johnny's looking a little rough,
yeah.
like maybe he's like partying a little bit or something. But hey, Johnny Depp can do whatever he wants. But in comparison, if you would have like done a health meter, you would have been like,
Yeah,
Johnny's not looking too good. Jeff looks freaking great,
yeah,
and he's just and third song in, I mean, dudes, when you got a really good guitar player and got a musician, I'm sure like yourself, you feel the same way. I mean, the man, he had me in tears the third song.
yeah. Well, Jeff,
You know,
that's
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, the guy just spoke with his instrument. I was talking to
That's the
Chatfield right
power.
before I went to go see him, and he goes, "Jeff's not a guitar player. He's a magician."
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, he's a guitar player, obviously, but he's like, because it's just magic. It's like it's not.
Coaxes things out of a guitar. He coaxed things out of a guitar that were beyond the guitar.
Yeah, and you're looking for you're looking for loopers. You're looking for all these effects and
Yeah,
stuff,
no,
and
it's
it's
him.
just like, no, he's using it, a Strat and an overdrive or something. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so amazing. I feel so blessed to have seen him
Mhm.
right before. It's just such a huge loss. But you get players, it's Jeff Beck never showed up to one of these jams, but I mean, there's some pretty high caliber guys that come out here and jam, and it's just a
Yeah.
lot of fun. Um, and the jams are so good. I mean, I've seen a lot of really good bands, and there's some nights I've seen some thrown together guys, 5, 6 dudes that may or may
You've
not.
seen a bunch like historically speaking, you were coming up when a lot of other bands were coming up. So
Yeah,
you saw the progression of somebody probably stinking because they were in their beginning stages,
yeah,
beginning-ish.
yeah,
Going to be
yeah, yeah.
beginning and play the Sunset Strip, but and these bands would go on to change music forever. So that
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I it's funny. I spoke with before my mom passed. She watched that Echoes in the Canyon movie,
mhm.
and it's funny because I mean I moved out to LA when I was 20, and I always thought she was with me, like knew what I was moving out there. And she goes, "God, did you know all that music was going, all that scene was going on out there and everything before you moved out there?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, yeah, yeah, Mom, yeah, yeah. That's the reason I did it. I couldn't help myself. It was
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a giant magnet.
well,
Yes, yes.
we're of the same generation. You're maybe an older brother, maybe. How old are you?
56.
50. Okay, so you're like a year older than me.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, so I got out of college to go to LA.
yeah.
It never got there.
Yeah. Well,
It's like I
it's
gotta
still here.
I gotta save some money up before I go out there. I didn't get
Yeah, I didn't.
I didn't get the Pete Way call,
Yeah, yeah. I'm
but
certain I would have got out here some way anyway. You know what I mean? The Pete Way thing did just kind of give me the fast track,
yeah, yeah.
which is, I mean, that night, I think I talked about it last time. I
Something
mean,
going for you that I didn't.
you know, that night, the first day I was here, I mean, I was watching MTV. I was in Louisville, Kentucky, watching MTV 24/7. I didn't even have a house. I was just babysitting people's dogs and doing all kinds of shit just to. I played in an all original band. It was really great. But I came from the band, like I said, Money. That's how I made my money.
Mhm.
And I left that band and was in Louisville for almost a year with a super great bunch of guys, but we didn't play that often and didn't make that much money. So I mean, I was like buying and selling gear, and I'm doing whatever, and I get the phone call to go out to LA. And so I go from this kind of dismal existence in a way, to hanging out. I'm hanging out with I mean, on the first night, I'm hanging out with everyone from Motley Crue, Heather Locklear,
Ace Frehley.
Ace Frehley, CC DeVille. I mean, just hanging with them, like they're right here. And, we're just, and I'm just like, I just saw all you dudes on MTV like 12 hours ago,
Right.
and it's just that way. I mean, when I got back out here, it's just one of those strange things. I ran into Nikki immediately at a guitar store,
With synergy.
and it's just one of those things. Yeah, it's just like, oh my, hey, what's up? Hey, it's so cool.
I wonder where that place is now.
What's that?
Like for somebody who's 20 years old, where is it?
Oh,
Where
it's
is
still
this?
here, I think.
Huh?
I think it's still here. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, you have people from all over the world that, like I said, it's that age. It's like it's not like people our era. It's just people coming from across the continent
Hmm.
to get here.
Yeah.
And now it's people coming from all over the world, but they're still, it's like, they get here and then they, during the jams, in between the jams, I got all these guys, these young kids going, so what was it like? After they find out that I was actually here
Yeah.
during those times, they're just
That's
like,
why we're talking.
like,
Let
what
me
was
be
it really
honest with
like?
you.
And yeah, well, okay, that's cool. Hey man, I love the fact that I was here,
Yeah.
and I love the fact that I'm still around to talk about it.
You're a
And
survivor. How many
I am.
survivors? We're gonna wrap this up, but how many
Okay.
survivors? Like you're at the Whiskey. Is there a big survivor contingency in LA?
There's a group of us. Good question. Like I said, there's a, I mean, there's a lot of Brent Woods. You know who Brent Woods is? You know who Doug Aldridge is? Obviously we said something about Sean McNabb. There's a group of guys, that never stopped doing it, and they've, etched out a career doing it. They've got made a living at it, and it's just continue to get better and better. It's maybe I don't know if I have to say like a percentage of it shows up at the jams. There's probably 20% of us that are just like survivors. There's
When I say
another,
survivors, also I'm talking about they overcome the vices.
oh, well, all of us that are still
Okay.
around like that are kind of like that.
Okay, good. That's
You
yeah,
kind of meet in the rooms, and
yeah,
all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I know you.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Um,
And this is wonderful to hear.
yeah, I moved away from Ohio again. The main reason I came back to California, just to be straightforward, is for sobriety. It's the main reason I came back out here, because everybody I knew in my hometown,
Was dragging you down. Yeah.
yeah, and not I mean, I have friends that were outside of my area, but like where I lived, especially, I don't how much I would say they were friends. I have people family and friends I love to death. But I had to go. I could not.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make it another minute. I had to go. And part of what brought me back out too was being able to. I came out and visited, and then a month later I moved back. I got enough together to come out and visit some friends and hook back up with the love of my life, which was
That's
a whole other story. But
it's a great, good.
I got to do that, and I got to see the music scene out here when it was, and so I got to see survivors that I would meet in the rooms, and I'd be like, they're like, hey, we're playing over here. It's like, holy shit, you're still playing? Oh yeah, and it was just within a couple months, my whole life just went flop, and just the glass was half full instead of half empty, and the sun was shining every day, and everything was about music.
It was good energy.
Yeah, it's and unfortunately, as long as I've been back out here, I've continued to lose friends all over the country, man. That stuff got a hold of.
Yeah.
There's definitely a crew in Columbus that got through it and are still involved in music and have their shit together, which is great. There's a lot of, actually from our era. There's a lot of tough people. We came from a specific kind of way of upbringing, and just the music just affected. I don't know. Like I said, I'm starting to see younger people that are affected by music like what we were when we were young.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, really dominated. Even people that aren't musicians, they hear just certain songs, little pieces, little things, and they're immediately catapulted back to a time.
Mm-hmm.
And they remember in explicit detail everything that was happening.
Yeah.
We were so attached to music, our generation.
Oh yeah.
And we just had such.
I can't even imagine what life would be like without music as that thread, of reminding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Who
like
knows?
people you've met, good and the bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the experiences that you've good and the bad, because there's bumps. There are bumps.
Yeah. And we're all.
And I commend you for surviving. Not everyone.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I do.
We're gonna do
my best
more of this. We're gonna talk more about this. We're gonna change. We're gonna change the riff someday. So
do it, man.
So Shane, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, as I said, I want to. There's lots we could talk about.
Oh yeah, dude. Talking is not a weak point of mine. I can talk forever.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Alrighty.
Thanks, Rod.
So I will see you, Guitar Nerds. Shane Hunter. He is in. When is the next time you're going to be playing?
I'm playing. I got 15 gigs this month alone.
With Mick Adams and the Stones.
Yeah, Mick Adams and the Stones. We just played last night. We actually had a gig. I know we're leaving, but I played 4 shows yesterday.
That's wonderful. That's it. That's wonderful.
Is that crazy?
Yeah. See you all.
Gotta love it. All right, man.